All right, let me dive straight into the chaos swirling around the Philadelphia Eagles right now, because the vibe inside this team feels like a roller coaster with no brakes. Before getting into the heavy stuff, the first thing that jumps out is the injury situation, and for once it does not look like a never-ending drama. There is still a key absence that is going to sting for something around 4 to 6 weeks, and losing a cornerstone player for that long is never minor, but outside of that, almost everybody else is back on the field. Seeing almost the entire group listed as full participants brings a completely different energy. Even the guys dealing with concussion symptoms showed up moving well, which is always unpredictable. So just from a health standpoint, the team finally caught a small break. And after the stretch they have been through, that alone already shifts the atmosphere a bit. But once you step away from the medical side and into the heart of the locker room, the tone flips instantly. The dynamics inside the building feel completely tilted. The defense is walking around with their heads high, celebrating, joking, almost buzzing with confidence. You can see it in the way they line up, the way they communicate, the way they attack every snap. It feels like they are playing at the level of an elite unit, one that believes it can take over games on its own. Meanwhile, the offense looks like it is dragging chains behind it. The frustration is written all over the faces. Conversations turn into debates, energy turns into tension, and everyone seems to be searching for answers that never quite come. It is wild, because before the bye week the offense finally looked like it had found a rhythm. Those 2 games leading into the break felt like a turning point, especially when they moved the ball well against a strong defensive squad. Fans were starting to believe the puzzle pieces had finally locked into place. Then the bye week hit, and the momentum evaporated. The offense reverted to the same choppy, inconsistent version that had people scratching their heads earlier in the season, while the defense just kept climbing from the first week until now. The evolution on that side of the ball has been dramatic. The growth of young players, the return of key pass rushers, and the overall chemistry coming together completely change what that unit looks like. When you remember what happened in that early matchup where the defense struggled badly, it almost does not feel like the same group. They rebuilt their identity on the fly and turned into a force, and because of that, there is this strange split inside the building where the defense is riding a high, and the offense is stuck trying to untangle every knot possible. And of course, when a team hits a rocky patch, outside noise starts growing like weeds after a storm. Rumors start bouncing around. Stories get twisted. People speculate about tension between players, and it only adds fuel to the frustration brewing inside the locker room. One of the biggest talking points floating around right now is the idea that certain offensive players might be annoyed with the quarterback for holding the ball too long, missing reads, or not taking shots that seem open. And every time something like that gets whispered around, it turns into a headline before anyone even has a chance to confirm what is real. Guys get cornered with microphones and asked about feelings, frustration, drama, and it becomes a never-ending loop of questions that only make things worse. But the one thing that keeps standing out is how the players keep trying to shut that noise down before it spirals out of control. When asked about whether there is frustration directed at the quarterback, the answer was direct and honest. Everyone on the offense is frustrated, not with one player, not with one position, but with the entire offense falling short of the standard they know they can hit. They talk weekly about what needs to change, what can improve, how to attack each matchup, and what might finally spark the consistency they have been missing. They all know the passing game has not reached its potential. They all know the running game has been stuck in neutral. And they also know that whichever one of those areas finally wakes up is going to pull the rest of the offense upward with it. That was the most refreshing part of the response. It was not finger-pointing. It was not deflecting. It was not drama. It was an honest acknowledgement that the entire group is searching for solutions. And the moment you hear that kind of answer, you realize the issues are not about effort or mindset. They are about execution. They are about finding identity. They are about getting back to playing complementary football. The kind that showed up before the bye week when the run game was humming, the pass game was sharp, the defense was suffocating opponents, and the entire team felt connected. Right now, the defense and special teams are doing their part, and they are doing it at a high level. The offense knows that, and that only intensifies the urgency to match that same energy. There is also the debate about whether one of the star receivers has lost a step, and that topic blew up way bigger than it needed to. A comment meant to point out how statistics do not always paint the full picture. got twisted into a whole storyline about decline. But the truth is simple. Production drops when the offense is inconsistent, when the protection breaks down, when the play design stalls, when the timing is off. Receivers can only do so much. It is the same situation for other players around the league dealing with low numbers. Despite having elite talent, it does not mean they suddenly forgot how to play football. It means the system around them is not functioning the way it should. And that ripple effect hits everyone differently, and yet the fan base reacted like the sky was falling. People were throwing around wild takes, talking about trades, frustration, splits inside the locker room, when in reality the situation is nowhere near that dramatic. Sometimes the fan base gets emotional in ways that do not reflect what is happening inside the building. A comment gets misinterpreted, and suddenly it becomes proof of some imaginary divide. The receiver even tried to downplay the whole thing, making it clear that if he is being judged solely on numbers, then other elite players dealing with the same kind of statistical dip would have to be labeled the same way, and everyone knows that is not the case. Inside the team, the message keeps coming back to the same point. The offense needs to find its rhythm again. Whether that means better play calling, cleaner execution, or more trust in certain situations, something has to click, because with the way the defense is playing right now, fast, aggressive, disciplined, and finally healthy, the window is wide open for this team to make a deep postseason run. The kind of run where the defense can carry you through rough stretches, but the offense still has to step up if this team wants to dominate the way it is capable of. And the thing is, when you really start digging into the conversations happening between players, coaches, and the people analyzing every snap, you notice that nobody on the offensive side is hiding from the reality. They feel the weight of every stalled drive, every missed opportunity, every moment where the ball should have moved and did not. The receivers know it. The quarterback knows it. The linemen know it. Everyone understands that this team was built to be explosive, balanced, and dangerous. Not stuck in this loop, where one good quarter gets followed by the slow, predictable ones. You can hear that honesty when one of the top receivers gets asked directly whether the frustration with the quarterback is real. And instead of feeding the rumor mill, he goes straight to the point and says the frustration is shared across the unit. Not toward one guy, not toward one decision, but toward the reality that the entire offense is not living up to the standard that they themselves set. That kind of answer tells you a lot. It shows maturity. It shows awareness. It shows that the players are not panicking, but they are not pretending everything is fine either. And that is exactly the kind of mindset a team needs when they are trying to rediscover who they are, because that is where this offense is stuck right now. They are searching for identity in the middle of the season. Some weeks the passing attack feels smooth, other weeks it looks rushed and off rhythm. Some games the running game shows flashes of what it can be, but then it disappears again in the next matchup. And when you are constantly switching between those two extremes, it becomes impossible to build momentum. That is why the question about identity hits so hard. The players know they should have had that answer by now, but instead all they can say is that sooner or later it has to emerge. And it is interesting to watch how the defense's growth is impacting the urgency around the offense. The defenders are flying around, celebrating, communicating like a unit that genuinely trusts one another. The young guys are finally playing fast instead of thinking. The veterans are back healthy and bringing that leadership presence that was missing earlier in the year. The pass rush, which used to feel inconsistent, is now overwhelming. You can see how much more confident the secondary is when they know the front is getting home. All of that fuels an energy inside the building that the offense wants to match. But right now it feels like they are chasing something they cannot quite grab onto. What makes it even more complicated is that the defense remembers exactly how people were talking about them in the first weeks. They remember being called the weak link. They remember the criticism after getting carved up early in the season. They remember fans being unsure whether this group had enough talent or depth to contend. And now they have turned it around so drastically that they look like one of the toughest defensive units in the league. Meanwhile, the offense, which used to be the unstoppable side of the ball, is battling through adversity. That shift alone creates a strange dynamic. Not because the players are divided, but because every group wants to hold up their end of the bargain. When one side is thriving and the other is struggling, the frustration naturally spreads. And that is the thing people on the outside often misunderstand. When players express frustration, it is not drama. It is not finger pointing. It is not a sign of a broken locker room. It is simply the emotional reaction of competitors who know they can play better. The wide receiver answering questions about missed throws was not taking a shot at anyone. The quarterback, having visible frustration on the sideline, was not blaming his teammates. The offensive line showing emotion after stalled drives was not about pointing to mistakes. It was about holding each other accountable and trying to find solutions on the fly. That is what high-level athletes do. They confront the problem head-on, even if it means uncomfortable conversations. But of course, the outside world rarely sees it that way. Every eyebrow raise becomes a headline, every clipped sentence becomes a narrative, and every honest answer gets twisted into something bigger. That is exactly what happened with the comment about declining production. The receiver was trying to explain that numbers alone do not define a player's value, especially when the offense as a whole is struggling. But the moment he mentioned another talented player who is also dealing with low numbers, the entire comment got twisted into a comparison or a criticism. And that is why players hate responding to those types of questions. They know exactly how quickly their words get stretched into something unrecognizable. Inside the team, though, the message keeps circling back to consistency. That is what they are chasing. Consistency in protection, consistency in timing, consistency in play calling, consistency in execution. Because when this offense is clicking, it is nearly unstoppable. When the run game is rolling with power and speed, and the passing attack is layered and unpredictable, this team becomes one of the most difficult units to defend. That is why the frustration feels so heavy right now. It is not about doubt. It is not about division. It is about knowing how close they are to being that team again, and yet still being stuck a step away. You can see flashes of what they want to become every week. A crisp out route that hits perfectly in stride, a deep shot that stretches the defense, a designed run that bursts open through the middle, a screen that catches the opponent off guard. But flashes are not enough. You need rhythm. You need flow. You need that sense that every drive is building off the last one instead of starting from scratch every time. And until they rediscover that rhythm, the offense will continue to feel like it is running uphill. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. The Philadelphia Eagles locker room was buzzing today with a piece of news that could reshape the entire landscape of the team. Sources close to the organization suggest that a star player whose name has been whispered in every NFL rumor mill is now officially a free agent, and the possibility of him signing with the Eagles has sent shockwaves through the fanbase. Social media erupted almost instantly, with hashtags trending within minutes, memes flooding timelines, and fans across the country speculating on the immediate impact this signing could have. The excitement is palpable, as supporters imagine the potential for a revamped defense and a squad that could dominate the league in ways never seen before. Insiders indicate that negotiations could be swift, but nothing is confirmed yet, keeping everyone on edge. Pundits are already debating the strategic implications. Would this addition finally give the Eagles the edge they've been chasing, or is it a high-risk, high-reward gamble? Analysts are poring over past performances, injury histories, and fit with the current roster, trying to predict how quickly the newcomer could adapt and elevate the team. Meanwhile, the city of Philadelphia seems to be in a frenzy. Merchandise speculation has spiked, and local sports bars are buzzing with talk of what this could mean for the next season. For fans, it's more than just a potential signing. It's a symbol of hope, a spark that could ignite the city's long-awaited championship dreams. Whispers in the stadium corridors suggest that coaches are quietly adjusting plans, imagining formations and plays designed around this very player. The energy is unlike anything seen in recent seasons, and even casual observers are drawn into the excitement. While the deal remains unconfirmed, the rumor itself is enough to send the Eagles faithful into overdrive, imagining the roar of the crowd, the headlines, and the unforgettable moments that could follow. In a league where a single signing can change fortunes overnight, the Eagles may be on the brink of a transformation. As the speculation grows, so does the fever pitch of anticipation. Every fan, journalist, and analyst watching for that one official announcement that could turn rumor into reality. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.